Okay, we're recording. Hello, everyone. We're back on track. Having another conversation here with Haider Al-Mosawi. This is Mshari Sharq, and this is a topic that's been suggested on Twitter. Talked about comfort zone. And it's a really interesting topic. There's a lot of different ways you can see comfort zone, a lot of different ways you can approach it, lots of different ways you can think about it. And so in this conversation, we're just gonna go back and forth a little bit. It's gonna be fun. Um, so the actual suggestion on Twitter mentioned talked about expanding the comfort zone, getting out of the comfort zone, and seeing the comfort zone from two perspectives. Like emotionally, stuff you're comfortable, stuff you're not comfortable with, or what's the stuff you like, stuff you don't like. But the other one was about fear, but what you're afraid of versus what you're not afraid of. So the idea is that things that you're not afraid of are, well, that's your comfort zone. Things you're out of afraid of, that's outside your comfort zone. The previous one was like, what you didn't like, stuff you were familiar with, stuff you liked, stuff you enjoyed, or within your comfort zone, stuff you didn't feel very comfortable, didn't really like, didn't enjoy, um, were outside your comfort zone. And so there's different ways that you can think about this. So before I give my input, Haidar, what do you think? What defines the comfort zone itself, and what do you do about it?
Thank you, Mshari. So the way you described it, I think, would be the way that I describe it. And it's basically the emotions you want to experience and would exist within the comfort zone. And then any new experience or anything that may cause you fear, anxiety, intimidation uh, are the things that are outside the comfort zone and keep you contained within the comfort zone. And a lot of advice when it comes to personal development, self growth, uh, starting businesses, anything ambitious, the advice is like the magic happens outside your comfort zone. So the actual encouragement is for you to step out of the comfort zone despite how discomfortable or uncomfortable it might be. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the typical advice. I actually believe in the reverse. I believe that um, the magic is within the comfort zone, but I would make a distinction between the center of the comfort zone, which is where you are, and then the edge of the comfort zone, which is the changes. So things that you're not doing, but you still feel comfortable doing them. And once you step towards the edge of the comfort zone, so you're still within the comfort zone, this feels good, but it's not something you typically do. Uh, you show up without feeling afraid or intimidated,
Mm-hmm.
and the more time you spend at the edge of the comfort zone, what you'll realize is the edges actually expand. So to give you like a very basic example, uh, in many sort of like moments in my life, I don't feel like exercising, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. Like, I don't have energy. I'm not in the mood to exercise. So the way I approach it is to say, I'm not gonna exercise. Like, the target is not to exercise. The target is to move my body in a way that doesn't feel intimidating. So let's say for me, I would say I'm not even gonna do push-ups. What I'll do is wall push-ups. So I don't have to go to the ground. It's really easy. I just face a friggin' wall and do this. That's it. But after I do that, after I do it a few times, I start to realize it's not enough. My body actually craves more movement. So I end up doing things that are extra, or I end up doing a full exercise because my body is uh, craving that movement. So the approach that I take is stay within your comfort zone, but move to the edge of it. And when you move to the edge of it, your comfort zone will expand, and then you will seek out change. You will seek out improvement without feeling intimidated by them.
Yeah, I need the thing that people usually tend to do. I mean, the desire to expand the comfort zone it's natural because people generally feel like then things aren't okay. They're not so happy with their lives. Something needs to change, and they think of a lot of different things that they can change and do in their lives. But eventually, they come to the comfort zone that they're doing the same things every single day, and they need to change that. And so they're thinking, oh, this is my comfort zone. Like they start to learn about the comfort zone idea, and they start to think, oh, I need to go outside and do things I'm not comfortable with in order to grow and improve my life. Which is perfectly reasonable. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Um, but it can easily be like done wrong. Um, and so what usually people tend to do, and I've done this for most of my life, so I completely understand this. Um, but they tend to like see this is my comfort zone. I'm going to like let's say this is my comfort zone. I'm going to go way outside, way out here, and like drown myself in the unknown. And then that obviously doesn't last very long. Very quickly, they just shoot back inside and they get comfortable back again to recover because that experience was just so stressful. That's of course expected to happen. Of course, that's what's going to happen if you just throw yourself in the deep end without any um, support, you know, or even with some good support. Usually, that's not enough because you're throwing yourself way in the deep end.
Yeah.
Um, but what you said, actually, I think the same thing. I agree 100% that like you want to not just like jump past the border of the comfort zone and go way out there. You want to slowly push it from the inside. And so you're always staying in your comfort zone, but very close to the edge. But then you come back and you recover, but then you push again the next day and you slowly push your way out. And eventually, what eventually you'll find yourself doing things that were outside your comfort zone, but now you're actually doing them. Now they're kind of comfortable, they're kind of familiar. It's because at any given point in time, you're just doing something you're kind of comfortable with. But when you do it, when you get close to something that's scary, it becomes less scary, and then you can go further the next time once it becomes comfortable, and then the thing that was further up ahead becomes slightly less scary, and so on and so on and so on. Most people don't do this. Even I, knowing this, I still don't do this because, well, a lot of reasons. But one of them is that this takes time. This is a slow process. It works like magic. It really does. But it's a slow process, and we can be very impatient. Um, and yeah, we can be really, really impatient with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, like although I completely understand the idea of not being happy where our life is, and so the assumption is we need to move beyond our comfort. But what ends up happening is people put off change because it's too intimidating, or like you said, they experience a setback, or like it becomes way too intimidating, like this new experience that they're having, and so they come back to the comfort zone and like seek the security of that comfort zone. But so putting off change is a huge obstacle, and I believe many people are in a constant state of someday I'll do this. When I feel ready, like I hear this so many times, like when I'm ready, I'll write a book. Like first of all, what are the conditions of feeling ready, and then how would you guarantee that you will experience this readiness? Uh, my favorite, I think it's my favorite quote. Uh, it's by a woman called Barbara Barron, and she says, uh, "Don't wait. Don't wait for. Uh, don't wait for emotions to change to take the action. Take the action, and the emotions will change."
Mhm.
Um, I think I screwed up the quote because I've been saying it so many times for myself, and then I messed up.
That's
But so the idea is you don't. uh, the emotion doesn't come first. You take the action, and when you take the action, your emotions change about it. So
Mm-hmm.
the intimidation, you feel very intimidated when you're not doing the thing, but when you start doing the thing, you feel a lot more comfortable. You realize it's not as scary as you made it out to be. So then you ease yourself into that change that you want to experience. And my recommendation would be to think of it in terms of still being in your comfort zone, but uh, but still making change. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and the example you gave about exercising, that's a perfect example for something like this. It's like just the perfect example. Um, so there's a lot of reasons why people kind of pressure themselves so much to jump way out the comfort zone, especially with the example of the gym, or exercising. They tend to think, if I'm not working out with weights 5 days a week for 40 minutes with 20 minutes cardio before and after, the perfectly healthy diet, if they're not doing all of that, they're not making any progress at all, right?
Mm,
And they
yeah,
think the same thing for, like, I say they, I actually mean we. We tend to think of the same thing, like it still applies in most areas of life, not just the gym. But that's just a really good example. Um, but with exercising, like to me personally, even doing to just like you, just doing push-ups at home, here in my room, right here next to my chair, that's still too much. That's still too much of a hassle. Okay, I
yeah,
even have my tools like right there in the corner of my room. I still don't use them. Um, but what I feel like is easy and possible for me to do is go on walks, which is something I also enjoy. It's not just I do it just for exercise. I also enjoy it. That's also important because walking is like way in my comfort zone. I really enjoy it.
yeah.
I really enjoy it. It's easy, it's doable, and it is a form of exercise. It is actual exercise. I'm not lying to myself. It's actual exercise. It's just not extremely intense professional workouts. Okay, it's really small. It's really simple, but it actually makes progress. It actually does something. And what usually tends to happen because I enjoy it, I go on walks, and then like after some time, days or weeks, sometimes even months, doesn't really matter, but eventually um, I end up taking longer walks,
Yeah.
and over time I get to a point where, okay, I'm getting the energy. I would like to sprint. I would like to just walk a bit faster. I, I get the urge to
Yeah, yeah.
sprint even just 5 minutes, you
Your
know.
body starts to crave it. It starts to
Exactly,
crave like a bigger challenge because this
exactly.
become too easy. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Um, so you will eventually make progress and get to that point. I'll start sprinting. At some point, yeah, just just the just like how you put it. I'll start craving lifting weights. And the thing is that when I start to want to sprint, then sprinting at that point when I want to start sprinting, sprinting becomes something easy and kind of in my comfort zone. It becomes something I'm not scared of. I'm not intimidated by. And eventually, when I want to lift weights, it becomes something less intimidating and less scary and less overwhelming and less daunting, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so the idea that to make that progress, to make that change, you want to start with the things that you're actually able to do relatively comfortably. You know, you don't want to overwhelm yourself until you hate it. Although I
Yes.
realize if you don't overwhelm yourself that way, it won't feel like progress. I get how that feels, but it is actual progress. Just keep enjoying it, stick with it, and you'll get somewhere. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that people generally don't do this. I can only speak from my experience about this, but I think this is a common experience, um, because like once, let's say I start walking, and let's say once I start calling it exercise or even referring to it as exercise to other people, I get a lot of pressure to go to the extreme levels, you know, and it
Yes.
becomes difficult to stay mild and just just go on walks and just enjoy myself and take my time. You know, it's that
Yeah.
it's that external pressure that pushes a lot of people, I think, to just go into the extremes and go way out past their comfort zone to try to make what is considered progress.
And to belittle whatever activity that can help them get started. Like when you say to someone, I went for a walk for half an hour, they're like, okay, and did you lift weight? You know?
Yes, yeah.
And when you feel like people are belittling your progress, you start to think that it's not progress. Like, what's the point? This is the thinking that comes to mind. Like, what's the point of doing this? It's not enough. And I do believe that's one of the reasons why people want to go to the extreme, because they want results quickly, but they also want to feel that they can see the finish line. They can see the goal that they want to achieve. So to give you an example, actually, as you were talking, like lots of thoughts came to mind. And the first thing I'd like to begin with is there are three books I would recommend about this topic in general. One is called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Another one is Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, and Mini Habits by Stephen Guise. If you notice, the names like are in the same domain and they kind of convey the same message, which is stick to habits that are small enough to not feel intimidating at all. I would say Mini Habits was the book that kind of clarified the idea the most, and it focused on the central idea of doing something that allows you to show up without feeling intimidated. And to give you two examples from the book itself. One is that the author started with a one push-up challenge. So every day he would show up to do just one push-up. And to him, that was something that wasn't intimidating. Like he couldn't say no to it because it was so easy. But then he applied the same strategy in different areas of life, and he noticed he was seeing like much better results. And so the other example is his, although he's a writer, his writing target for the day was 50 minutes, 50 words, 50 words. 50 words is so easy. I joke about this. I say, if you cough, that's 50 words. Like it doesn't take a lot of effort to write 50 words. But the fact that he's showing up, because sometimes when you say to yourself, I'm going to write 500 words or I'm going to write 1,000 words, although it feels like, so if you're writing a book that's 40,000 words, you can at least think of it in terms of, in 40 days, I will have a finished draft. If you're thinking 1,000 words a day for a target of 40,000, it's 40 days. 50 words is nothing. Like you're going to spend a lifetime if that's your only target. But the point is, it's a target for him to show up. But then when he shows up, he's able to write a lot more. And when he feels inspired, he may end up writing 1,000 words, 2,000 words. But the challenge that he was trying to address is not showing up. So saying no to an activity because it's become too intimidating. And I think this is the idea that this is why it's so important to stay within your comfort zone, for you to simply to show up and to show up consistently. So that's the idea of all three books: Atomic Habits, Tiny Habits, and Mini Habits. It's this idea of doing it, make the habit so small that you can't say no to it. Okay, that's one point. The other is there's this idea of activation energy. So when it comes in chemistry, when you want to, like certain chemical reactions require a bit of energy at the beginning to kickstart the energy, and then you just allow the energy to continue, the reaction to continue. But that activation energy at the beginning is what allows the reaction to happen. And the same idea can be applied to like our behavior. So when we, let's say for example, somebody tells you, let's go outside, initially you feel like, I'm not bothered, you know? I'm sure like everyone has had this experience.
Mhm.
You want to say no to an experience, but then when you say yes to it, when you leave the door, like leave the place, home, or the place you're in, then you feel like you're comfortable with this experience. So that's the initial activation energy. Like you want to go for a walk, and you're like, I'm not even bothered to put on my training shoes. But when you put your training shoes on, like you just give yourself a bit of a push at the very beginning, then everything else kind of takes care of itself. So this the idea of activation energy, like I know it's okay. I just need a bit more energy at the beginning when I'm saying yes to the activity, and then the rest is going to be easy.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Oh, sorry. I do have a couple of things, but I want to hear
Mm.
more from you.
I was
I
gonna
don't want to
ask you.
have the conversation because last time I feel like I was doing most of the talking.
No, that's okay. So I wanted to ask you about the activation energy part. I feel like a lot of people would be interested to know a bit about this. So, um, and we get I think the idea of what the activation energy is and why like it's an obstacle in creating habits. I think that was just clear how you laid it out. But 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 like what do you do about it? Like how do you like make the activation make the necessary energy to activate that habit or the activity smaller or to jump over
Okay.
that?
Yeah, a
Yeah.
great question. I was initially like afraid you're gonna ask me about the chemistry side. I'm like,
No, no, not
please
going
let's
there.
not go further into it. This is all I know about the chemistry. But actually, if you look up activation energy, what it looks like as a graph, it's like a hill, يعني a bump today, and then the line goes down. And this is the activation part. Like you need additional energy at the beginning, and then no energy is required to continue the activation. So
Mhm.
if we think of the analogy of a hill, uh, with like an initial bump, like you're going up the hill, and then after that, it's like free flow, like it's easy to continue going down the hill. When we think about exercise or when we think about going out, there are so many activities we put them off because we imagine that the experience itself is going to be uphill throughout the whole experience.
Right.
So the way I would think of it is you. So the way you can use this idea of activation energy to help you get started is to think this will only last a few minutes. This intimidation or this reluctance
Mhm.
to do the activity will only last a few minutes, and I can live for those few minutes. But then after that, I will enjoy the experience. So you want to go for a walk and you don't feel like it, you say, it's okay. I'll think about this again once I'm down the road. And
Mhm.
when you do think about it down the road, you feel to yourself, I'm really glad I left the house
Mhm.
because this is something that's enjoyable and I know it's healthy for me. So
Yeah.
it's just the acknowledgement that it's a hill and it's not going to last for that long. It's just the very beginning of the reaction of that experience.
Right. Yeah. Like I can see how this relates to a lot of the stuff that I said before. And like you can see this in a different way. And like so, by the way, as a general note, a lot of the stuff that we're saying, and you can say the same thing in different words, and you can see a lot of different people say the same thing with different words. So someone like uh, Jordan Peterson talked a lot about. He didn't talk a lot about it, but he mentioned staying within your domain of competence. He called it domain of competence. I'm likening it to your comfort zone because in your comfort zone, you're actually at your best. You're actually at your most creative, at your most like you see things most clearly within your domain of competence. Sorry, I mean your comfort zone. Sorry, and so he said the same thing. Stay within your domain of competence. The point is that you don't overstretch yourself until you're weak and can't do much, right? A lot of different people, and he kept talking about the same thing using different words.
Yeah,
Um,
using different words or different analogies or models. One tip that I like from Jordan Peterson is uh, I think he says, tidy your own room, or
Clean your
tidy,
room.
clean your room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one.
So the idea is because sometimes you can get stuck in thinking about how we can change the world and how we can tackle big issues to the point that we rob ourselves of agency and the ability to actually do something, to make a change. But when you start with something that you do have control over it, this will give you the confidence that you can move on to bigger things. But initially, you have to fix the thing that you have immediate control over, and don't neglect that. Like, don't step out of your own area of responsibilities that you can apply a lot of change to, because you're seeking these massive changes.
Yeah.
Stephen Covey in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People uses a model which is really interesting, which is the circle of concern, the circle of influence, and the circle of concern. So you can have concern about many things. I can be concerned about the elections in the US, but I don't really have any influence about this, um, like about what's happening in the elections. So what Stephen Covey recommends is you focus on the circle of influence, the things you can change. It doesn't mean that you reduce your concerns, but make the distinction between what you're concerned about and what you're concerned about and can influence. So that model, I think, works really well. And the more you focus on your influence, your circle of influence, the more you will have influence. So if you focus on your career, for example, you're really passionate about making the world a better place, but you're dedicating time to building yourself, your career, being able to make money, being able to communicate well. Working on these skills, working on these areas of your life will give you a much better platform to have the kind of influence that you want to have for your other concerns, or to have a bigger influence within the causes that you care about.
Hmm. Hmm. That's really true. And actually, and this is going, and I was thinking about connecting this with stoicism and a lot of other things that I realized how they're all kind of connected.
Everything's
But
connected.
but I wanted to take a step back, um, and just bring this back to the comfort zone. So if you guys remember, I don't know how long this has been, quite a while, but if you guys remember that in the beginning,
How long
uh,
have we been chatting? Is
I
it
think
half an hour?
maybe half an hour. I think around half an hour. I didn't
Let's start to wrap
check.
up within 10 minutes.
Yeah. So if you guys remember how around the beginning we mentioned how you stay in your comfort zone, and when you go to the edges, you're slowly expanding outward. It's kind of the same thing you just said, where it's like when you're working on your within your domain of influence, that tends to expand. Once you're able to do this, you grow your skills and you're able to influence a little bit further ahead, and you keep expanding that way. Um, so general advice about the comfort zone. Uh, I'm getting the sentiment. I'm getting the sense that the sentiment surrounding the comfort zone is a rejection of the comfort zone. I feel like that's what a lot of people are thinking. Like, this is bad. I don't want this. I want this to go away, because they're thinking this is what's wrong with my life. It's the comfort zone.
Yes,
But
exactly.
yeah,
So the comfort zone is being blamed for the life that people don't want to live. Like, I would, I would be living
yeah.
the life I want
If
if
not
I'm
from my
not
comfort
stuck
zone.
within my comfort zone. Exactly.
Exactly. But I think the message that you and I are sharing now is kind of the opposite, is embrace the comfort zone. There's nothing wrong with it. It's actually really good. It's when you're at your best. It's when you're comfortable. It's when you're safe. It's when you know the stuff that's around you. And within the comfort zone, if something strange comes into it, you know how to respond because you know where everything is at. And so the general message is to accept your comfort zone, to embrace it, and to work to expand it. So I think this is, I'm going like really broad. Just to say this
Outside
next,
the comfort
just say
zone
this
or
next thing.
inside?
Huh?
Are you still staying inside the comfort zone?
Yeah,
Broad,
definitely.
but inside or outside?
Well, So the idea is any I, I I I hesitate to say this because it does sound a little cheesy, but it's true. You want to expand your comfort zone not by hating it, but by loving it. And so when you love the comfort zone and you genuinely love it, it will expand more naturally and more effectively. If you start with hating the comfort zone, it's not going to expand, believe it or not. It's not naturally going to expand. You can beat yourself to death. You might expand it a bit, but you'll hate yourself for it, and it's just not worth it.
So you connected something to stoicism. I feel like it's not there. Uh, I think what you're, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems what I seem to understand is when you hate the comfort zone, it's as if you're rejecting where you are in life. But when you love the comfort zone, especially with the idea that I'm not living my life because I'm stuck within my comfort zone, the comfort zone starts to represent the life that we don't want to live, that the life that we're living and don't want to live.
Mhm.
So by loving the comfort zone, you're beginning from a place of acceptance. And I think Stoicism, like Stoic philosophy, teaches this a lot in terms of begin with accepting, uh, accept reality for what it is, and then make the most of it. You know.
Mhm.
So if you say this is not where I want to be, this is not the life I want, but it is the life you're living now. At least accept this fact, be comfortable with it. Don't fight it. Don't feel frustrated about being where you are. But now, what is the next step towards the life that you want to live? And I do want to mention this idea because I think it's very important. We talked about how the comfort zone or the progress that we make doesn't seem significant, or it seems too small for the life that we want to live. But I do feel it is important to have these two factors in mind: the vision of the life that we want, and then the progress that we're making. So maintaining a clear vision is good, but you want to be consistent enough with the actions that you need to take to achieve the life you want. What many people end up doing is they judge the progress that they're making and then they give up, so they're not consistent in their efforts to achieve their vision. Use the vision. My recommendation would be to use the vision as a reminder, but then don't judge on a day-to-day basis whether you're at the you've achieved the life you want or not.
Mhm.
What you should focus on is uh, the progress that you're making and trying to be as consistent as possible towards achieving that vision. Because I'll give you like a very basic example. If you're trying to lose weight and you're checking your weight on a daily basis, it's likely that you'll experience a setback. Maybe you drank water too much at night, and now, like checking in the morning, your weight is up again, and you feel like, oh, all the progress is wasted. But if you check on a daily basis and like check the result, you may not feel happy with the result that you've achieved. But if you focus on being consistent with the habits and trying to improve, like thinking about it in terms of if I'm eating healthy, even if my weight hasn't dropped the way I wanted it to, I, I'm celebrating the fact I'm eating healthier. And how much healthier can I eat? How much better can I exercise? You focus on like nurturing that progress uh, to make it consistent, and then the vision that you want kind of becomes inevitable because you're focused so much on making the progress and not the contrast between where I am now and where I want to be. Because if we continue making that comparison, uh, we may give up because the gap between where we are and where we want to be will always be there. Like even if you're making so much progress, if you got the career that you want, most likely you'll set another goal for like another thing to seek. So the gap between where we are and where we want to be, I think, will always be there. But we have to appreciate what Dan Sullivan calls the gain, which is where we came from, like where we were and where we are now, and to appreciate that progress that we made.
Yeah, yeah, I would say that's really important. This actually is a different perspective on how just a few minutes ago you talked about how you're starting from a place of acceptance, and how I talked about how how you should start with loving the comfort zone rather than hating it. These two things actually kind of surround loving yourself, and that's also important as well for your growth. But also, I would say I just have two more things to add here. The first is that you try, like you have a goal, you want to get outside your comfort zone and be more than the kind of person you are now, be the kind of person you want to be, and that's great. Um, yeah. Um, so Naval Ravikant, great person overall. Um, he said a lot like he has this phrase that says, be impatient with action, but patient with results. So keep taking action, be consistent with it, but be patient with the results. Be patient with the final result that you want. And at the same time, try to enjoy it. Like you going to exercise, let's say every day, try to enjoy that exercise. Try to focus more on enjoying the exercise rather than your progress and how much left you have to get to. Um, the other thing I wanted to add was um, so I forgot what it was. I forgot what it was. Did I add
Yeah.
it already? I forgot what it was.
Maybe you can include it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I'm sorry, I forgot.
Well, you can see that we covered a lot of ground here. Um, so, yeah, this has been a good conversation. It's been really insightful. As always, I learned something new. So, this has been great. It's been
It's
great.
likewise.
Um,
Yeah, I always enjoy our conversations and miss them when they don't happen. Like a tear drops. It's okay. We can reschedule, and like, I'm crying.
uh,
Yeah.
oh, this has
Thank
been
you very
nice.
much. And we have another topic we were meant to discuss next week. Empathy, I think, our next topic.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
so. There's always there's always another topic we can talk about.
There's always, yeah. We can never
There's
run
always
out
more.
of topics to discuss.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Thank you very much, Mshari.
You too. You too.
Okay.
I'll see you probably next week.
Yeah. Remember the tear.
All right, all right.
See you.
I'll see you. And thanks everyone for watching. I hope you got something out of the video. Subscribe, and you'll find more of these podcast episodes coming out soon.